In this video today, I will show you how I took the 360 videos and photos for my Insta360 One R camera using the 360 mod, and I created VR footage that I uploaded to my Quest 2 VR headset. For this video, I used the Insta360 Studio 2022 app for Windows 10, as well as Adobe Premiere Pro 2022. So let's begin. Okay, I have copied all of the files from my Insta360 One R camera that I took recently on a cruise that I went on. And these are all the files that I took with the various and different mods of the camera. What we're interested in today is only the 360 files, because we're going to make a VR that we can upload to a Quest 2 headset to view the videos in VR. And so the different files that are associated with the 360 files are the ones that have the extension of INSP, and also the ones with the extension INSV. The INSPs are the still photos, the 360 still photos, and there's only one file for each photo. The videos, on the other hand, they have 3 files associated with each video clip that you took. The ones that begin with LRV, these are just kind of like low-resolution thumbnail videos. And there are also ones that begin with VID. And the ones that begin with VID, there are going to be 2 videos that are associated with each clip. One is from the front lens, and the other one is from the back lens. And the only difference in the name is one of them has a 00 in it, and one of them has a 10. Now, if you're using the Adobe Premiere plugin and doing all the stitching from within Adobe Premiere, you only need to drag one of these files into Adobe Premiere, and it will automatically look for and associate with the other one. In my case, though, I am going to do all the stitching and initial processing in the Insta360 Studio 2022. The reason for that is that in Adobe Premiere, when you are creating your project, it does not remember your stitching parameters. So if you close the program and open it back up to continue working on your program, on your project, it's not going to remember any of your stitching parameters. Another advantage to doing it within Insta360 Studio itself is it recognizes if you've used lens guards. So you can have sticky lens guards, you can have the big bulky lens guards that you put on them, or you could have no lens guards at all. And the Insta360 Studio recognizes which lens guard you used if you're changing them out between clips. Whereas with Premiere Pro, it doesn't know, even if you're using the plugin. So I like to do all my processing within the Insta360 Studio. So the first one I'm going to process are the still images. Those are the ones that end with INSP. So I'm going to just filter on these particular files. So all that's listed in my Windows view here are the INSP files. So I will just select the top one, hold down the Shift key, and scroll down to the bottom and select it, so that all of my INSP files are selected. And now I'm going to click and drag all of these files into my Insta360 Studio 2022. Okay, and next we need to process all of our photos. So you double click on the first photo. Stabilization type you want to set to automatic horizon leveling. stitching, it should automatically come up with whatever lens guard you were using when you were taking that picture. And I like to turn on dynamic stitching and chromatic calibration. And then for media processing, I also like to turn on Color Plus. It probably just depends on what you like to do. And then close that, double click on the next one, and go through the same process. Now you can also, after you've done it, check your stitching to see if you like how your stitching setting is done. And if you don't like how the stitching was done, you can always come back in here and readjust it. Try optical flow stitching, try different lens guards. It's been pretty good at coming up with the lens guard that it is, and so I usually just leave it where it is when it comes up. But if I don't like the result, or if the final result, if the stitching is quite off, then I'll come back in and try some of the other settings for any particular file. But you just continue this, the same process for the rest of the files. And so I'm going to continue with this to finish the rest of these still photos, and then we'll be back. All right, and I've finished with the last file in the list now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click here and select all. Then I'm going to come down here to Export. And we're going to do a batch export. I do not want to export it at the original resolution because this resolution is different than the videos that I'm going to use, so I want to change it to the same resolution that the videos have. So that resolution is not available in the pull-down list. So what I'm going to do is click on this little icon over here where I can manually type in that resolution, which is 5760 by 2880. And then I will just start the export. And when it's finished, we'll be back. So now we have finished with all the INSP files. Those were the still images. So now what we're looking for is anything that has an extension of INSV. So I am going to search on anything with extension INSV. And then I'm going to click on the top one, scroll down to the bottom, hold down the Shift key to select them all, and then I'm going to click and drag them into my Insta Studio. And so I closed down the Insta360 Studio and I've reopened it, and I'm going to click and drag my videos in there again. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing we did with the still images. We're going to go video by video, and we are going to make sure that flow state stabilization and direction lock is on. It's important to have direction lock. Then for the stitching, it's going to come up with whatever lens guard you were already using, and then dynamic stitching and chromatic calibration. And I also like to turn on Color Plus. Then you just double click on the next one, and you'll do the same thing. You want to make sure flow state stabilization, direction lock is on. Use whatever lens guard it recognized you had used. Dynamic stitching, chromatic calibration, and Color Plus. And you're going to repeat this for all of the videos and make sure all your settings are set. And then when I'm finished going through all these videos, we'll be back. All right, I've just finished the very last file. So I'm going to right-click on this, and I'm going to select all. Then I'm going to come to Start Export. Want to select 360 videos. We're going to go ahead and do the original resolution because they were all the same resolution, the 5760 by 2880. If they were different resolutions, then you'd want to do the same thing here that we had done with the still photos and just type in the resolution here. But we're going to use the original resolution here. The bitrate quality, you can either use high, recommended, or extremely high. We're just going to do the high. I want to do H264. I'm going to remove the grain, and even though we set it individually for each of the files, I'm going to make sure that flow state stabilization and direction lock is on. And then you can start the export to start exporting all of these videos. Now, depending on how many videos you've got, this can take several hours. And so when this is all finished, we'll be back. One thing I forgot to mention, when you're doing your batch exporting, you can set the file path where you want your exported files to go. So I'm just sending them to a folder, a temp folder that I have on my desktop. And I just wanted to point that out. All right, now all my still images and videos have been exported into the folder that I chose them to go into. Now I like to further organize my files before I import them into Premiere according to the projects I'm going to want to make with these files. So I'm going to make 3 VR videos, one of the cabin we were staying in from all, and another one, all the shots from inside the ship, and another one from the shots on the outside of the ship. So I'm going to just start taking some of these videos and still images and putting them in the folders that I'm going to want them to go into, according to whether it's inside of the ship, outside of the ship, and it's actually probably inside. I'll count that as outside. And then I'll be back when I've finished sorting all these. Okay, now I have sorted all of my files according to what VR video I'm going to want to include them in. And so now I'm just going to click and drag these folders that are containing the files down into the Import Media to Start region of my Adobe Premiere Pro 2022. And so what that's going to do is that is going to import all of the files and create a separate bin. That way I can keep my different video projects separate. All right, now I can start working on my individual VR projects. You notice there's a blue box around here? That's showing that this particular region is selected, and so you can hold down the Shift key and the tilde key to maximize that particular box. So now I have more to work with, and I can look and see which one I want to use first. You can tell the videos because it's going to have audio associated with it, whereas the still images don't. So you can see that these, plus you can tell by the file name, if it begins with IMG, that's just a still image. And if it begins with VID, then that's the 360 video. And so I think probably the one I will use first, and I think I'm going to want to use this particular one first. And so I'm going to do the Shift and tilde key again to bring that back down. All right, it's right here. So I'm going to click and drag this down into my timeline. And you'll notice it added a file down here to the bin. And you can recognize it by this little icon here in the corner that's showing you that's your sequence. So that's kind of your project that you're working on. Now this is a 360 video, so I want to really look at in VR mode. So you can toggle VR video display, this icon right here. If you don't see that icon in the list down here, click the plus button and find it up here and click and drag it into this little blue boxed in area. So you can click on this. Now something else, I don't like the square view here. And so I am going to click on the settings icon here, and I'm going to come up here to VR video, down to settings, and I'm going to change the monitor view to 160 by 90. Then click OK. And you can see here that changes your view. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to start the starting view angle. In other words, as you're watching this VR and you first come into the video, what direction you're going to be looking at. And so I really don't want it pointing at me. I would rather have it pointing about in this direction, which is 180 degrees approximately from where I was. So I'm going to set these to 0. So we want to come to effects. So you want to make sure effects up here is selected. And then over on the right here, you're going to search for VR. And what we want is VR rotate sphere, which is right here. You're going to take this and you're going to click it and drag it down to your clip. And your effect controls are going to be in this window. If you don't see it in this window, you may have something else showing, in which case there may be more than one thing to show. So like for instance here, you don't see the effects control here. So click on this little double arrow right here and select Effect Controls. And here, under the VR Rotate Sphere, you want to change your pan to 180 degrees. And that's going to turn your view to the back side. So that's the direction you're going. And if you want to see how it is, you can click the play. And you can see this is the direction it's going. All right, and this is the Royal Promenade on the ship. And so this is the video of it. It's the only video that I took in 360 of the Royal Promenade. But I have several still images. So I am going to hold down my Control key and select all of my still images of the Royal Promenade. I'm going to right-click on one of them and set the speed duration. I want to give the people that are going to be looking at this in the VR enough time to turn around and look at the 360 view. So I'm going to set each of these clips to 15 seconds. Oops, just 15 seconds, 0, 0, and click OK. Then I'm going to click and drag them down to the sequence. And so then you can look at your clips. And in order to see it in your working timeline, this is your source file. And let's see if we can Here I will bring down the toggle VR view. And we'll toggle the VR view on this. And then I'm also going to change this VR video settings to the same one as the working project one. So what the difference between this and this view right here is your sequence view. It's where you are in the video that you're making. This one over here is just the particular clip you're looking at. And so this is the first clip, this one right here, and I want to see what direction I want that to be at, starting. And I say the one that comes up is fine, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And so you can see over here in your sequence, if you move your cursor, the end of the video, and the transition, if the person is still looking straight ahead, that's where that is going to transition to. And then you can, and then the person, can be looking around in here while that's playing for 15 seconds. Then it will go to the next clip, and we'll leave that at the same starting position. And then it'll play that for 15 seconds, giving the person watching enough time to really look around. And this one, yeah, we'll probably leave all of these about in the same starting position as what the original clip was. If you wanted to change the starting position, you would do the same thing you did for the video. You would take the VR rotate sphere and drag it down to the particular clip that you want to edit. And so now we've got the Royal Promenade set. And if I wanted to squeeze down this timeline down here, you've got two little kind of bubbles down here that you can pull. You bring them close together on the left, and that will bring that, and then you can spread them apart, and that kind of squishes down your timeline. Then you can move this whole thing down here to actually move around your timeline, and that's how you can move around your timeline. And then you move your cursor here so you can get to the different times in your timeline. Okay, so now we have finished with the Royal Promenade. You can tell which ones have already been pulled down to your sequence because now it's added a little icon here saying the video is used one time. And so you can just scroll down to see which ones have been used and which ones haven't. And once again, the one at the very bottom, this is actually your sequence. This is the video you are building. Okay, so next I'm going to look at the other videos that I've got to see what I want to use. So this is the Royal Promenade that we've already used. Okay, these here are in the Schooner bar, and I had recorded the whole process of the trivia that they were doing. We don't want the whole thing, so I'm just going to look at some of the different clips. Like here's one that is 7 minutes or 7 seconds. And so we'll maybe start with that one. So we'll click and drag that one down to the sequence. And let's actually move our cursor down here. And I'm going to want to change this starting position to maybe be pointing in this direction. And so that's, again, about 180 degrees. So I'm going to set that to 0. So this is the default starting position. So once again, under Effects, I'm going to take my VR Rotate Sphere, and I'm going to drag it down to the clip I just added. And then I am going to go to Editing. And once again, if you don't see your effects control in this window, click on this little icon here to find it, to bring it up, and that's the pan x-axis or y-axis we want to change. So we want to change that to 180 degrees. And so you can see here our view has changed to 180 degrees. And the person looking in the VR can still move up, down, and just look around. And we'll maybe choose one other clip of being in the schooner bar there. I'm going to set these all to 0 so we can see what the default starting position is. And then I want to see about where I want it to be. So maybe about like this. So maybe about 150 degrees or minus 150 degrees. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come up here and select Effects. We're going to find the VR Rotate Sphere. Click and drag it down to our clip. I'm going to come up here to Editing, right here. I don't see Effects Control. I can click it here, or I can do the little arrow here and select Effects Control. And make sure our clip is selected down here. If you don't see it, just click on your clip down here. And I'm going to want to set my pan to about minus 167. And if I set these to 0, I'll see where my starting position is. And so that's where this particular clip is going to start. And so that will be my clips of the schooner bar. And so now I can just look at some of the other clips and do the same process until I've got my entire sequence built and the video the way I want it. And when I've got that done, we'll be back. Okay, now I've got all of my clips and things on the timeline. The blue ones are the videos, and the pink ones are the still clips. And I've noticed I have this one in the middle that I have forgotten to set the time. If I right-click on this clip and I set the speed and duration, it's only 4 minutes. I want to change that to 15 minutes. Now, by default, this check mark is not going to be checked. When you're working with stuff in the middle of your timeline, you want to make sure that is checked when you set your time. So I want to change this to 15 seconds. Now let me show you what happens if I don't have this checked and I click OK. You see it didn't change the time because it's hemmed between two clips. So if I check that check and set my time, and click OK, now it will expand the time. So you just want to remember to make sure that you've got that set to insert. Now say I wanted to insert a clip between these two. So I would change my time here. Let me expand this really far out so I can see what I'm doing. If I were to just take a clip or an image and click and drag that into there, what it's going to do is it's going to overwrite the top, and well, not overwrite, it's going to push it over and chop it off. And so you can see that throws off your entire timeline because it's cut off this video clip to accommodate for it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit and undo. The way you want to do that is make sure your timeline marker is where you want it to be. right-click on this clip and select Insert. And that will insert, moving everything behind it. And that's the correct way you want to do it. And I don't really want to insert that there, so I'm going to undo that. But that's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to insert clips in the timeline that you have already built. Yeah, here's another one where I forgot to set the time for this particular clip. So I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to do the speed duration. I want that speed to be 15 seconds. Make sure that the ripple, edit, shifting, trailing trips is checked, and I'm going to click OK. And so I'm just kind of looking at my timeline to see if there are other little messes there that I made. And this is the way I want it to be. So at this point, I've got all my starting positions, and so I'm ready to export this clip. So I'm going to come up to File, and I'm going to come to Export. Media. I want to export that to H.264. And for the output name, I am going to say VR inside ship, since that's what the VR video clip I'm going to be making. Under video here, you want to scroll down and under the bitrate settings, you want to change this to 120. And it changes both to 120. Make sure the video is checked. Should be monoscopic, 360 and 180. And you want to make sure that the export video and export audio are both checked. And at this point, we are ready to export. And so just click the export button. And it is probably going to take a while. It estimates it's going to take maybe about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. And so when this is finished, we'll be back. All right, it's finished recording now. And we've got the finished product here. So I have plugged in my Quest 2 headset into my PC, just using its charging cable. And so this is my Quest 2. I have created a folder that I call Insta360, and that's where I put all of my films. And let's see, I'm going to rename this one because I'm differentiating the different programs I'm trying to make VR files. So I'm going to say this is VR Inside Ship Premiere. And I'm just going to click and drag it into the folder. And it's going to take a while. It's a fairly large file. It's almost 10 gigabytes in size. So it is going to take a while to copy over there. And when it's finished, we'll be back. Okay, and the file has completed transferring over to my VR headset. And if you would like to see watch the screen capture of when I'm going to go into the VR headset now, and I'm going to watch this video. And if you'd like to stay tuned, I will record my activity within the headset. If not, I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.
Okay, I'm recording the video now.
Okay.
Now wave.
Bye.
Okay. Number 7 goes like this, easy and slow. In what year was The Godfather released? One more time. In what year was The Godfather released? It doesn't seem so long. We build it up with all the team. And when it hurt, the hurt runs off my shoulder. How can I hurt when I'm holding you? What?
Also get this. Here, Sherry, come here. Here, let's take a bath. This is video.
Interesting crowd. You there with the drink on the ledge. Do you think you're at home? Please remember to keep all drinks and things off the ledges. And keep the aisles clear. The entire theater is a stage. And as they say, all the world is a stage. Oh, that glass is blinding. You there with that camera no photography of any kind. Glasses are dangerous to the performers and artist copyright law 42. And please, no videotaping, please.
Alright.
And don't you have enough.
The lights up on everybody, please. Fantastic. All right, this section first, and if you're ready to go, thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you've got your mask on over your nose and mouth before you do leave. And have a great evening. See you later. And it's like everything inside. Anybody inside the room, if you're ready to go. Take it easy, everybody. We'll see you around the show. Middle section will just sit tight for a few more moments. Give everybody a chance to get on and be nice and safety.